Okay, I do believe we are live. Welcome along, everyone.
Perfect.
See you again, Baloo. How are you?
I'm doing well. Doing
Yeah,
well.
you've
Doing better than the crypto market.
well, you can. Well, yes and no. Yes and no. I think I was rewatching our show from last week, and I think anyone that was watching that probably did all right.
All right. Yeah, fair enough.
So, well, I mean, on that note, let's have a quick look at the market, see what did change from last week, maybe. Okay, here's the top 100. Not looking good, is it? What have been the big changes? So there we go. We've only got a handful that are in the green over the last week, people. And it's good old Axie Infinity, which we certainly have been flagging for you. So anyone that did buy that,
Yep.
well done. Well done indeed. But outside of that, mate, when you go through the other ones that are in the green, and there's not really many, half of them are stable coins, 0%.
Hey,
Well,
people
quickly,
are buying stable. That's a
yeah.
measure of health for the DeFi markets, I would say.
Well, I mean, looking at the NFT market, though, if we have a look what's happened there over the last week, that's a different story. The gaming
Yeah.
space. In fact, the other tokens that we've been talking about, Rev, the Sandbox, yeah, they've all been pretty big movers over the last week. So we'll try and make some sense of what's going on for you today, people. Also going to be having a bit of a Axie chat. I know many of you viewing now are avid Axie. How's that all going for you there? How many scholars are you up to now?
I have 18 scholars, and it's going good. And
Yep.
it feels good to be a part of the only crypto project seemingly doing well right now. And it's interesting though, because it's the only crypto project right now that has this continuous driver of demand and this continuous economy that just keeps being fed.
Mm.
There are so many people looking for scholarships. So, there are no shortage of potential scholars. And I think that if that continues and the Axies are, remain profitable and SLP remains a profitable living, there's
Yep.
an incredible amount of demand. And the
Yeah.
market overall is soft. And we're seeing that strength and that, arguable intrinsic value show up in the Axie Infinity ecosystem because it's the
Mm.
only thing doing well. And I speculate it's carrying the NFT market as a whole. Because people are like, well, I missed Axie. What else can I get?
Yeah, absolutely. Just a few quick shout outs here to some very familiar names. Maybe one of my scholars. Good to see you here. Alexis Domingo. Good to see you, a constant follower of the channel. See ya. Welcome along, Kitten Dusk. Joycel Castillo. Appreciate you as part of the community. I see you're certainly pretty much watching everything we ever put out. Now, I will give away one of my scholarships at the end of the show, people. And it's not a long one today, so hang around with us. But Baloo, we are more of a trading show today. So should we dive on in and have a look at a BTC and an ETH chart? And we'll take it from there, throw a few ideas around, try and figure out what the hell's going on.
Sure. All right, so we'll start out on BTC. We're trading sideways. We're in a consolidation. The consolidation hasn't changed. Whenever you're in a consolidation, what it is that you're trying to determine is there strength, is there demand? What is the dominant force that is taking over within the consolidation? So we haven't broken support, which is good. We've got our support level down here, and we haven't broken that yet. But we're also not seeing any demand come in.
Yeah.
you can't just focus on one side of the trade. You can't just focus on one side of the activity inside of the market. There is a decrease in the overall amount of volume in traded overall, but there's no demand. So whatever the case may be, I feel a lot of money is potentially sitting on the sidelines. There are people maybe waiting to see what happens as a result of the GBTC unlock. I don't know what's going on, but whatever the market sentiments, whatever's going on with market sentiment, nobody's willing to put their money on the line. And that's just it. That's where we're at. So
yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, we've had months of FUD. I think that's still sort of unwinding. I think we're over the worst of it there. Where I'm a bit confused at the moment is obviously we talk about BTC as being this institutional anti-inflation hedge. So where I'm slightly confused at the moment is the latest CPI figures coming out of the US are indicating inflation of around 5.4%. We know the real rates are a lot higher than that.
Much higher.
But the thinking here is that the money printing may well have to slow to keep inflation in check. And therefore, some analysts are saying that's affecting the price of Bitcoin downwards. But, the overall sort of sentiment around Bitcoin is when inflation's going up, you want to be buying Bitcoin. So I can't really make head or tail of this at the moment. I guess in summation, my thoughts at the moment are we've probably got a little more of the sideways or downward action left. We've got Janet Yellen, who's asked Gary Gensler, head of the SEC, to give some clarity around regulation by the end of the month. So that's a biggie that we're waiting on. But what other sort of factors do you think are at play here?
I think just a lot of uncertainty. So, as a result of the bull market, we had a lot of new users come into the space. We had a lot of new investors, discover crypto, and they got scared because, we had one of the largest drawbacks in the crypto market as a whole, a 50% drawback, especially before that drawdown occurred. There was this narrative going around that can never happen, that this could not happen anymore because the institutions are here. They're going to hold the price up, yada, yada, yada. So I think it took a lot of people by surprise, which is the exact function of any market. It is designed to take you by surprise. But people are scared. We're waiting for regulatory clarity. We're waiting for to see how investors react with the unlock of the GBTC. There's just a lot of people waiting, and they're like, you know what? I'm not going to touch it. I lost a lot of money. I don't want to touch anything until I know what's going on. And that's kind of just what I think is going on, is people are waiting for something to happen. And I don't know what it is that people are waiting for, because fundamentally we're incredibly strong. The adoption of Bitcoin down in El Salvador and the adoption of Lightning Network and payment channels and all of this stuff, like we're ticking right along. So, I feel people just think a little too short term. And crypto has a reputation of making people very wealthy in a short amount of time. So when that reputation doesn't come to fruition for the new investor, they pack their bags and leave. So I don't know. It's just you got to be patient. Think in terms of at least 5 years. When the momentum's there, you can trade it. When the momentum's there, you can trade it. But when it's not, you can't force feed trades. You can't just, we're trading sideways. I have a lot of people asking me, well, how do I short? I'm like, well, the only reason you're asking me how to short right now is because your longs aren't working. But, the shorts aren't working either. We're just not moving. We're not volatile. So it's a time to reassess and think about investing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the open interest at the moment on the hourly is about 64% in favor of the longs. And my typical thesis when I see that, with looking at the chart as well, that to me is a bit of a warning sign. I think there's fuel to fire it heading lower with that percentage of people long. So I'm kind of expecting a bit more to the downside. I'm not actually in a leveraged trade at the moment. That's very unusual for me. On that note, if you are a trader and you want to help support what Baloo and I and everyone at Hard Forking is doing, and I do stress, if you're an experienced trader, please use our BYBIT link. We get a small commission from that. Now, looking at this, I'm quite interested to hear other sort of thinking around this chart. Do you feel like we're really building some pressure here for a major move? Do you feel like it's getting to that point, or do you just think we're going to keep tracking like we're dragging here?
I think everybody's expecting a major move, and there's no reason to be expecting a major move. I don't think we're going to have a meltdown. I really don't. I think we're going to trade sideways here for a while. That's the most logical and most realistic outcome, is that we just trade sideways, whether, it's sideways with a little bit of down or sideways with a little bit of up, whatever the case may be. I don't see this happening. I don't see these types of moves happening. So trying to prepare your portfolio to capture a move like that, I think is just going to leave you just disappointed. I just don't see it happening. So, logic dictates that, we are in a downtrend. We are to continue to lower levels. But at the same time, I did a little video today with a little bit of the on-chain metrics. Let me pull up what I've got here on it wasn't anything advanced or anything like that, but noteworthy nonetheless. Just making the comparison between the wallet activity in 2017 at the blow off top compared to the wallet activity that we're seeing now. And I'm not looking at whales. I'm just looking at wallet activity as a whole. And you can see when we got to the blow off top, this is all balances that are non-zero balances, meaning if you have one Satoshi, you fall under this category. So it's just the pure adoption of Bitcoin. And what happened as a result of the blow off top is you saw a huge, significant decrease. People drained the accounts, they drained the wallets, they emptied them to zero so that they could sell them on the exchange. Where we are right now, we're not seeing that. And I just don't see this capitulation. I don't see this giving up action, or we're not seeing that giving up sentiment in the space in terms of what we're seeing with people in crypto. Whereas in the 2017 boom, it was very overheated, and people left. They got out. They packed their bags. They went away for 2 years, and that was their goal. So we're not seeing this time around. Now, that's not a measure of how long we need to wait around. It's simply just a comparison, because there's a lot of people saying, well, we're in a bear market, including myself. And from a TA point of view, when you're in a downtrend with no volume and there's bearish sentiment, you are in a bear trend. You are in a bear market. So if you ask me directly if I think we're in a bear market, I do. But bear market is not a measurement of time. Bear market is a measurement of sentiment and technicals. So yes, we're in a bear market, but it could turn around and then we won't be. So it's just,
you could argue we've been in a bear market for about 90 days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. The bearish trend began as we broke down from this lower high. So, look,
for me, we've touched on it a couple of times today already, but the overall sort of macro picture, obviously the two of us are quite involved in what's happening in the Axie ecosystem. We've just seen exponential numbers there. I think we're going to see a multitude of other use cases in the gaming space for blockchain. We've got countries adopting Bitcoin. You mentioned Lightning. That's huge for me. I mean, this is effectively a layer 2 on Bitcoin for those of you that are not familiar with it. I wrote a bunch of articles back in 2017 on Lightning. I followed it so closely. It looked imminent. It seems to have taken forever to get to where we're at now. But I know many of you here are from the Philippines, etc., where a large percentage of GDP it centers around remittance payments. So hence, Lightning, that's in effect really for me the driver of what we're seeing happen in El Salvador. So that's one to really keep a close eye on. You actually sent me a link the other day, Baloo, for Sphinx chat.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that and what else you're sort of seeing and how you think Lightning's playing out.
Well, I think it's playing out in the most crypto appropriate fashion possible. And when you forget about something, crypto reminds you that it's not done and it's here. Yep. So Lightning, I think you and I were both kind of the similar sentiment. We've really transitioned as a community, like the Bitcoin community, from this narrative of you'll be able to buy your cup of coffee with Bitcoin. We've transitioned away from that, and the whole store of value narrative has really taken over as the institutions became more involved. And now I've just flipped right back over because we have the potential here to have a day-to-day currency where you and I can trade, or you could be a shop owner, I could be a consumer, and we can open up a channel and we can, trade Satoshis for certain goods and services at a consumer level, instantaneous remittance, as a result of the layer 2, which is Lightning. So, the link that I sent you was for Sphinx chat. It's just something that I'm trying out. There are other layer 2 applications that are being built as well, but it's nice. It's kind of, very similar to something like Alipay or WeChat, where it's a chat platform, kind of structured similarly to both Telegram with kind of Discord-like integrations as well. If you kind of run a node and you can, get some of the feature ability of Discord as well. But, fresh out of the box, it's very much like Telegram. It's Telegram where I can send you Satoshis. So it's instantaneous. Like it's so fast that, I did a test with my wife's phone. You can't actually look at the sender's phone to verify that it was received on the receiver's phone. You have to put your finger on the button and look at the receiver's phone, and it's instantaneously there. So the whole narrative that Bitcoin is too slow, that's gone. Bitcoin is the fastest thing we got. The whole narrative that it's too expensive, that's gone. It's a matter of Satoshis. We're seeing this development, and it's really exciting to get back to the kind of grassroots narrative that Bitcoin really does stand a chance to not only be a store of value, but legitimately a currency.
Correct. Having been through the fork wars, hence the name of this channel, Hard Forking, back in 2017. The argument there around the big blocks. So if we had the split to Bitcoin Cash, they want to see it used as peer-to-peer cash. The argument there, two sort of economic schools of thought, one being that to become the currency, it had to be the store of value first, build it up to a certain point, price would level out, and then we use it. So it's fascinating to see how much Bitcoin will be deployed over Lightning. It's a tricky one for me. I mean, I get it for these countries that are looking to take Bitcoin as legal tender, primarily centered around the reliance on remittances. But for me personally, I don't fall in that category. For me, Bitcoin is my gold bar. It's that store of value. But it's great to see this action on Bitcoin. It will help the unbanked, the flow of value around the world, peer to peer. I think it's also important, Baloo, to remember we talk about sort of people waiting on clarification around regulations, etc. But for me, there's been a bit of a seismic shift with the miners leaving China, China really clamping down on the use of crypto. But it's important to remember that the US, where a lot of them are heading now, we've had Bitcoin and Ethereum go through the US courts. There's a ton of clarity around regulation. The tax infrastructure is in place, etc. So, look, I don't think we're going to be in the doldrums for too long. Any prediction from you on how long you think we might be going sideways here for Bitcoin and Ethereum, that is?
I mean, no, I don't. For me, charts are never a time-based metric, ever. It's simply when we reach certain targets, whenever they occur, they become an event. I never really try to put a time frame on how long I'm willing to wait or how long I think something will take before it develops. I just think that when the trend begins again, if it does begin to the upside before it heads to the downside, I think once that event occurs, the rest of the market will probably be quite bullish and rather fast. That's the only prediction that I can make, but it's not a time-based one.
Yeah. Okay. Can we have a quick look at ETH before we get into a bit of Axie chat and gaming and NFTs in general?
Yeah, so ETH looking rather weak, to be honest.
Oh, let me get my...
No, you don't. Looking rather weak. I mean, we're kind of in this same general area where we're sitting on support, which is good. You know, we do need to hold this kind of support level. If we fail to hold this support level and we break below this level of around 1,700, I would expect more downside, you know, and the reason that I have to kind of look at this so bearish is just because the macro trend is down. So if we do start kicking out some of these lows, we're going to be looking at a $1,500 ETH. We're going to be looking at a $1,200 ETH. And to be perfectly frank, ETH is kind of an interesting project for me in the sense that I don't find myself trading it very often. I find myself using it all the time, and I find myself accumulating it consistently, but I don't do short-term trades with ETH. I get good entries that I hold on to with ETH. So for me, if we hit $1,200, I mean, that's fantastic in my eyes.
I would be selling almost everything I have to buy ETH at that price.
Yeah, so ETH is a weird one. Both ETH and BTC, I trade very differently. You know, the faster momentum plays that you find in the altcoins when altcoin season is present and the momentum is there, I treat those very differently. So for me, I'm accumulating. I can't be more excited about the future of Ethereum and where it is going long term. The short term is pretty irrelevant for me.
What can you tell us about sort of levels of support on ETH? What sort of price points we're looking at there specifically?
Yeah, let me get rid of that. Let's take a few levels. So for me, my go-to move for finding support levels is just looking for breakouts. Oops. Delete. And I make notes of those levels on the breakout. So we'll start with the most ridiculous bearish one, which is a possibility, but very, very unlikely. We'd be looking at somewhere around $700. Again, I'd be jumping from the ceiling if we got price levels in that range. Then the next sort of general range we're looking at is around 1,400. You know, that psychological 1,500 is also kind of at play as well. An area that I think is a little bit weaker of a support, but still something that we'll probably pause at would be around the $1,200 mark. And then we're currently sitting on the level of support that we're actually sitting below the level of support that I would like to see. So I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of head down to somewhere around the $1,700 to $1,500 mark on Ethereum if this bearish trend doesn't reverse. We are sitting on a support level, but again, you know, it's shaky right now. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We got some price levels that seem unachievable, but man, you know, we do have support down at around $700-800 as things get more and more bearish. We will see. I don't know. It seems very fundamentally unlikely to occur, but at the end of the day, like, we're plugged in. It's kind of hard for us to disassociate from the fact that we see the development, we see the use, we see all of the doors that a blockchain like Ethereum opens. But we got to keep in mind that the world isn't ready. The world hasn't built infrastructure around this idea. The world hasn't adopted this technology. The world doesn't even understand what Bitcoin is. The world, in a lot of aspects, we are, we're early. So when you're early, you're going to do a lot of waiting. You're going to do a lot of waiting. The adoption curve for this stuff, when it does kick in, will be thick and fast, but we are on the beginning of the adoption curve. So that comes with a lot of uncertainty in timelines and a lot of waiting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, macro factors aside, I was watching the UFC this weekend and was just amazed to see crypto.com have taken out a 10-year sponsorship deal with them. We've got the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, all sponsored by crypto companies now. I mean, I think, people have understood to a certain degree what Bitcoin and Ethereum is. Obviously, we've got quite a knowledgeable audience with their involvement in the blockchain gaming space. I'm really impressed by our community. They're always wanting to learn more about the other aspects of crypto. To me, I am surprised at this price action, and I think it will be short-lived. I think there's some wonderful opportunities to get some entries here, but it always astounds me, the people that are sitting on the sidelines. They're always waiting for that next level down. It's hit 30. Did they buy? No. Because that's going to go to 20 when it's, is it going to go to 10? Look, dollar cost averaging is, if you're that sort of person, always a great strategy for you in this type of market, people. So speaking of gaming, I think the other one we looked at or have looked at a couple of times in the last 2 weeks was REVV. Have you got a chart on that one there? I'm interested to hear I've more than doubled my money in a couple of weeks on it. I'm just wondering whether it's what the chart's telling us.
Yeah, the chart is looking really good on REVV. We have to take the climate of the crypto market into consideration when we're looking at this kind of stuff. So I would, classify this as somewhat of a mid to long-term hold. But we're seeing just a bottoming, that we're seeing the bottom come in at an area of, like I said before, my go-to for finding support is the area of the breakout. So the initial breakout here for REVV token was right here. And we're kind of, not only did we become oversold in that area, but we're breaking above and holding above. So kind of, for the pattern traders out there, we're kind of looking at sort of an inverse head and shoulders pattern, which is simply a trend change, a low to a lower low to a potential higher low that hasn't quite printed or confirmed yet. So what I'm looking for in terms of a buy signal on REVV is if we can get above kind of the 14 to 15 cent mark. If we get a breakout above there, I think I'll be happy to be a participant and probably try to involve myself with the bullish trend. But it's looking good. It's looking good. It's a step in the right direction. It's by no means a face melter. It is going to go slow. There's a lot of people that don't know what this token is. There's a lot of questions associated with is it really going to get, is a play to earn game? Is it going to get the same exposure as Axie Infinity? The play to earn model for this is very different. So a lot of question marks associated with kind of how it would function in terms of demand for the actual REVV token. But if the game becomes popular, people need REVV. We're going to get a demand spike on that. But we can, by all means, kind of meander to the upside while that begins to take place and speculators begin to line up.
The company behind it, Baloo, is called Animoca Brands, and they've just finished another funding round where they've raised 140 million US I think the Sandbox is the other project under that brand. So yeah, I'm a holder of this one. So fingers crossed. So any other charts that you want to flag for the audience that you think are worth a look, or should we get into some more general chat?
I think another one that's kind of showing a little bit of strength, but to be perfectly honest, I don't know enough about this token in terms of its use case as far as like, do you need the Audius token to, like, I don't know how this token works, but yep. Audius kind of showed a little bit of strength yesterday. We got a little bit of a pop inside of the channel. We were unable to close any candle above the channel. So for now, I think maybe it's just, I don't know, just a little sign of life, but nothing really tradable as things really kind of aren't tradable in the current environment. I'm going to be keeping an eye on it. It looks like it has the characteristics of finding a little bit of a floor. And, we're seeing a lot of this kind of these currencies that are for the NFT ecosystem that's being built. They're kind of seeing some love. So I don't know if it's a long-term thing, but we'll see how this one kind of develops, because I believe you tip in Audius. I actually don't know the demand driver of the Audius token, but we're seeing a little bit of
well, do you know what? We'll cover this tomorrow. You're more than welcome to jump on with us with Leanne and Jesse, because Jesse has been using this platform. He's obviously a music producer, so we'll have a chat on that one tomorrow. Before I forget, actually, we've got a guy called Joe Saz joining us tomorrow, pretty well known trader. He's also the MD of Emberly Card. So we were talking about payment rails earlier. I sound like I'm shilling
interesting.
Them. They're not a sponsor, but we'll be having a chat with him about that tomorrow, and looking at the charts. You're more than welcome to jump on with us if you like.
Sounds good.
The Audius is interesting. I mean, it's sort of the decentralized Spotify is the way I understand it. But I think he was quite impressed with the community around it. And I think, as we've learned from Axie, it is all about community. If you're really serious about your investing, get in there and see who's actually involved in the thing and who's using it. That's a big lesson, isn't it?
Community and making money. Making money helps. And that's what we need to kind of figure out.
It's got to be right. Otherwise, it's going nowhere.
The music industry is really kind of...
Sorry,
I was just going to say the music industry as a whole is really kind of ripe for innovation. So there's going to be some experiments to go along with how to get people to buy music and then get those into the hands of the artist. So there's going to be some experimental stuff going on in the music industry for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is the whole point of crypto, is to remove the rent seekers and the middlemen, less friction. And as a content creator, we're looking forward to being able to tokenize some of the projects that we've poured a huge amount of money into over the last few years. So we've got a few things boiling away in the background, which we'll share with our community very soon. Speaking of sharing with the community, just a heads up, people, I think you're probably quite aware that last 24 hours, somebody was spamming the Axie servers. So I can't actually get all the stats on my Axies at the moment to put some teams together. But I have bred a bunch more, and I've certainly looked at every single video we ever post, tweets, etc., to see who is supporting the channel. So I'll have a number of teams on Friday, but I did want to give one away today. The team won't be ready probably for a few days. Where has she gone? Joycel Castillo. Thank you for your support. I see you pretty much on absolutely everything we're doing. So love to give you a team. If you can hit me up on Discord, I'll get that arranged for you. As I say, it is going to take a few days just to get those together. So yeah, any updates from you on what you're doing in the Axie world? How's it all going? Living up to your expectations?
Yeah, it's very interesting because, me as a trader, whenever I see kind of assets really start to appreciate in value very quickly, as a trader, my instinct is I need to sell.
Yep.
But with Axie Infinity, I'm scaling this kind of side business where I'm, onboarding new scholars and I'm breeding new Axies. And it's like I'm leaning in harder to something that I'm wired to sell.
Yep.
So I'm struggling with the mental side of that a little bit because I feel as though I should be taking profits and exiting and like I don't know. It's very different. So I'm struggling with the mental of that, and I'm just I find myself going back to hitting the hopium pipe and just hoping that Axie can continue for upwards of 3 to 6 more months would be amazing. But yeah, it's very interesting. My
Look,
kind
I
of
think it's got. I think it's
mindset
got.
with it.
We did quite an interesting show that I posted this morning with Stefano and Mr. Gonzo, looking at the numbers. I think we're all pretty convinced there's still legs there. People are plowing into this thing. The floor cost of Axies has gone through the roof. It's obviously costing a hell of a lot more to breed now as well, which the
Yeah.
dynamic has changed. That's for sure. But demand is clearly there. Just on that note, just a couple of other shout outs. Alexis Domingo, really appreciate your support. Geo, good to see you, sir. Many other familiar names here. Yeah, so look, I really plan to get a bunch more teams to you all very, very shortly. So make sure you're with us on Friday. Yeah, so how many teams do you say you're up to now? 40? Was it 30?
No, no, no. No, I've got 18 teams.
Oh, sorry, 18. 18. Don't know where I got
Yeah.
that number from. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
my
you're going to go up
bottleneck
40,
is SLP. Yeah, my bottleneck is SLP right now. So tomorrow's payday. Get to do a bunch of payouts for my scholars, which is going to afford me some SLP so that I can breed, so that I can get more teams and keep the cycle rolling.
Yep.
But yeah, it's that's my bottleneck, is just waiting for the teams to grind away and get that SLP so that I can keep this scaling.
Should we have a quick look at the AXS chart?
Sure. I don't
How
have
high can it go?
Well, to infinity and beyond. It's I did a video on that with some nice price targets and just talking about how my upside targets were around the $16 range. And I think, it's just how I calculate my price targets. This actually wasn't my calculation, but I'm not saying that it was wrong or anything. I'm just saying, like, we in the group, we use point and figure charts to get price projections. And we had a very bullish price projection of around $16. But at the end of the day, this is crypto and those are just targets. Yeah. So we did see some supply enter the market around $16, $15, those big psychological numbers. And then that didn't last long and we continued to higher levels. And it's really important to remember that the trend is your friend until it ends. So I find a lot of people trying to short AXS right now. You are standing in front of a freight train. Stop it. You're not going to win. We have a lot of intrinsic demand inside of this ecosystem. It has triggered a lot of trading volume on the exchanges to be a participant and a trader with this token. If you want to short AXS, it's going to require a turnaround. So you're not going to be able to nail the top is what I'm saying. So, people thinking, oh, we'll get to $20. That's going to be the top for sure. Don't think like that. Just let it turn around. And if it takes, a $6 move to get a confirmation of a turnaround for you to short it, go right ahead. But as you can see, the entire crypto market is very soft. And what is killing it? Axie. Yeah. Why do you want to short that?
Yeah.
Why do you want to short that? I'm not standing in the way of Axie Infinity.
That's
right
one
now
of these
in the
daily
AXS.
candles here we're looking at. That's we've got a nice
We're looking at
there.
the daily candles. Yeah, and it's getting ready to go again. I mean, it's full on parabolic. If we go down to the 4-hour chart, we've got a nice structure that never really breaks below the previous low. So that's a stepping stone structure. We are seeing shortening of the rallies. So I do think we're kind of getting to that point where we're, slowing down. But I'm not about to call a top on this thing. We're going to see psychological resistance at around $25. $25 is also going to mean that the breeding fee alone for one Axie is $100, which is quite a large number. We're not even talking about SLP at this point. We're just talking about the breeding fee alone in AXS will be $100. I think that's going to be a large psychological barrier because it's not only the $25 AXS token, it's the $100 in breeding fees that's going to kick in as a psychological level as well. But I mean, it's a very healthy, bullish trend that you shouldn't stand in the way of.
Yeah. Do you speak to anyone that actually trades SLP? And what are your thoughts around that?
There are people who are trading SLP. My favorite exchange, FTX, just did release futures contracts for SLP as well as spot SLP, which is fantastic for me. I don't like to use Binance. I know that the infrastructure with a lot of the scholars relies on Binance, and that's fine. But I prefer FTX. So FTX has got SLP at my disposal right now. But people do. I mean, we do have trading volume in SLP. A lot of times people don't really dive into the fundamentals, especially if you're a purely technical trader and what you're doing is you're going to the exchange and you're just loading up. You create a watch list of I've got one right here. I've got a watch list. If I go to like FTX BTC, and all you're doing as a trader is you're putting it on auto, and you're just like, okay, well, there's no setup there. You could probably short that. Oh, that looks like a nice setup. Like all you're doing is just going through. So there's going to be a large amount of people that are seeing the trading volume on a token like SLP, and they're not going to understand that there is a huge factor of supply coming in consistently with that token. So, people are trading it, but you got a lot of selling pressure working against you. By the way, as I was siphoning through here, BNB BTC actually looks like it's got a setup. So for those who are looking to trade and stack Satoshis, this is not going to give you more US dollars, but it looks like it has a potential setup on the Bitcoin pair.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, the Binance is still sort of in the crosshairs of so many goddamn regulators at the moment, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm actually slightly worried about having funds on there, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't have any, but that's just because I don't like how they're constantly freezing accounts and their customer service is crap. They're over flooded with retail. So as a result, I don't trade on Binance. But I don't think that Binance is about to be shut down or anything like that. Your funds getting frozen or having to deal with a headache with Binance, that's another story. But
no, I'm not. I'm not really overly worried about that. I'm not in a jurisdiction where if that were to happen, that would be an issue anyway. It was more I just couldn't move funds off there for nearly 5-6 weeks.
Yeah.
Miraculously, all of a sudden,
that's a common thread.
Really?
That's a common narrative. Yeah. And that's one of the main reasons that I boycotted them. But they've got the P2P network that all of the scholars are using to transfer their USDT into their Gcash wallet, which is what they're using in the Philippines for payouts in SLP. So it's still needed.
Yeah. I mean, that to me is the interesting sector, is to really look at who is involved in the payment rails. Obviously, we're talking with the MD of Embly tomorrow. They had to go from MasterCard to Visa. Visa, that payment rail coming into the crypto space is huge. And the thing I like about it is, they're not. Visa is a private company. They've only got to answer to their shareholders. So that's a big player. We got Lightning.
Yeah.
I'm always quite fascinated to try and understand from our Axie community how they do exit back to fiat. So if you're, I think we know how it works in the Philippines, but anyone else from other countries, just if you could drop a note in there for us, that's a space I want to be investing in. Whoever is really solving those payment rails.
Because it's probably the biggest hurdle for a lot of these countries. I had to do a little bit of admin with one of my scholars today, who the individual didn't have a bank account. Luckily, this individual was from the Philippines, so there was a lot of work around infrastructure. But if this game is to scale into other parts of the world, there's I have a scholar lined up in Georgia. I have no idea anything to help this individual in terms of turning the SLP into the Georgian. I don't even know what the currency is over there, the Georgian whatever.
I don't have an answer to that, but what I do know, because I've got a guy I know, Alex, who runs BitFury, one of the biggest mining operations, and who are actually integral in what's going on with Lightning as well. They're based out of Georgia, so there's actually a hell of a lot of crypto action in Georgia. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot. All right, buddy. Anything else to share with the audience before we wrap up for today? Any other hot tips? Hidden gems?
Hot tips.
What's mooting? What's the next 10x?
The next 10x is Ethereum. As far as I definitely
think Ethereum will 10x from here in the next 2 years.
Yeah. As far as hot tips, I think a word of advice that I can give a lot of people who are trying to trade this market right now, trade with the trend. Don't try and be sneaky. When you're in an uptrend, trade long. When you're in a downtrend, trade short. And when we're trading sideways, no position is a position. So that would be kind of my parting words, is there's really no urgency here until we can get the volatility back. Volatility up or down, we're just not doing anything. It's very
absolutely.
calm waters.
I'm taking that opportunity to get properly organized, filling in Axie spreadsheets and breeding more and getting teams together. So while it's I've had a lot of fun sort of trading that range, and I've done quite well. But for the sleepless nights and whatever, I'm like, okay, let's get all
the range is really tightening.
It's tightening, isn't it?
It's not
30 to 40
giving
anymore.
you much. No, it's really not giving you much. So why put yourself in the way of being wrong for 3%? Or 6%, put yourself in the way of being wrong if there's a potential to make 30 or 40, but not for, these little amounts.
Yep, absolutely. So yes, I'm just looking at the comments here. Yes, Ren, lots more breeding coming up. So should hopefully have a number of teams, well, not hopefully, I will have a number of teams on Friday for you all. So what's happening on your little tropical island these days, Baloo? Let's talk general life for a moment before we go. I'm cryptoed out.
Yeah, I mean, I think, ever since the pandemic kind of really kicked off, my wife and I have just been running away from it and going to where we have been treated best. So we spent a lot of time in Mexico, where it was either kind of ignored or just not overregulated, and we felt very free. And now, while places like the United States is pretty much business as usual and opening right back up, we're here in Bali experiencing a lockdown, and it's like, well, we couldn't get away from it. Eventually, we had to kind of feel the wrath of being locked indoors and what have you. So I'm getting.
Have you managed to dodge a lockdown for all of COVID up until now? Have you?
Pretty much, yeah. So it's only fair. It's only fair that I get a little bit, and we'll pepper in a little bit of COVID itself, so that
how you feeling
from that as well? I feel fine. I'm very grateful, very thankful that it was such a mild case. But I feel fine. I'm a little phlegmy in my throat, but you know, my sense of smell has come back, which I was kind of worried about because I've heard horror stories of people, you know, getting COVID and losing their sense of smell for months on end. So over the last few days, my sense of smell has come back. Yeah, on the mend.
Smell the roses, people. Smell the roses.
Yep. You never know when you won't be able to anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, listen, buddy. Thanks so much for your time. Let me know if
Always
you want
a
to jump
pleasure.
on next couple of days. We're back here tomorrow with Leanne, Jesse, and Joe Saz will be joining us.
Sounds awesome.
Our live show Friday. So yeah, I'll have a chat with you offline if you want to jump on either of those. You're always welcome. Great to have you as part of the community. And most importantly, thank you to you, the community, for watching, supporting us. We will see you back here tomorrow. Thanks so much, everybody.